Jim Rogers, you are a commodity guru, and you have been a commodity guru for many decades now. You've been famous for being on Bloomberg, BBC, and CBNC, and many others, with your direct approach against the central banks. With many financial commentators now talking about a possible global economic crisis likely to be forthcoming, where does the smart investor put their money? And which asset classes do you think offer the safest haven in a hostile economic environment?
Well, Perry, if many people are talking about it, it's probably not going to happen yet. We probably still have a reprieve, because these things usually only happen when nobody expects them. And in fact, it's usually better if everybody's denying. I mean, in 2008, I was on TV shows and people insisted that there was no problem. And it was right there, it was right out the window. So it would be better if nobody acknowledged there was a problem. What I will tell you, that we are going to have problems again. We have always had problems all over the world. The American Central Bank, Janet Yellen, in fact, who was head of it, has his own record of saying, no, we're never going to have financial and economic problems again.
Sure.
So if you believe her, then you should not listen to me at all. After all, she has a PhD in economics from Yale. I do not have a PhD in economics from Yale, I'm delighted to tell you. So if you believe people like her, there will not be one, but we've always had them. We're going to have them again. The American recovery has been the longest in American history. Doesn't mean it cannot go on another 20 years. Mr. Trump says it will never end as long as he's president. So you have Mr. Trump, you have Mrs. Yellen, you have people who say it's never happening again. But if it comes, when it comes, it's going to be the worst in my lifetime. The one in 2008 was caused by too much debt. Since then, Perry, debt has skyrocketed everywhere, and it's going to be much worse. Plus, we'll probably have trade wars in the next time, which will compound the situation. So you should be very, very worried.
Yeah, well, it's definitely something that has kept me up at night a few times. There is no doubt about that. But so you're saying that obviously a large proportion of people are commentating on this at the moment. What gives you the mindset that because they're all talking about it, it won't happen? What gives you the thought process on that?
I didn't say it won't happen. I just said we will have a reprieve. It'll happen later than we think. It's just usually the way the world works. When everybody knows something, it usually doesn't happen. If everybody's thinking the same way, it usually means somebody's not thinking.
Okay.
Now, it can happen. Of course it can happen. It can happen right now as we speak, and maybe it is. But I am less concerned when you tell me that many people are discussing it now. As I say, in 2008, it was happening, and people were still denying that it was happening. Iceland had gone bankrupt. Ireland had gone bankrupt. Bear Stearns, Northern Rock. People were still saying there's no problem. The central bank in America was saying, come on, people who are saying there's going to be a problem don't know what they're talking about. And one of the head economists at the central bank in America wrote in writing, we have 1,000 of the smartest PhDs in the world on our payroll here, and we don't see that there's a problem. How can these idiots say that there's a problem? And this is right in 2008. He said, how can these people continue to say that there's a problem or going to be a problem when we know there's not?
So what signals are you looking out for?
Well, it always starts when people aren't looking, as in 2007, nobody knew Iceland could go bankrupt. What's happening now, Latvia went bankrupt, Turkey's got serious problems, some Indian banks are collapsing, Argentina, Venezuela, Indonesia. I mean, it's starting. It's happening now. It's snowballing, as it always does. So I see it happening. It's just not on the evening news yet. By the time it made the evening, by the time it made the evening news in late 2007 or 2008, September, October 2008, everybody knew. It's not on the evening news yet, Perry, but it will be. It'll get there. Don't worry.
I'll keep an eye on it then, mate.
Or you can watch Big Eye. You can find out by watching Big Eye.
I love it. So, look, the last financial crisis is often linked to questionable bank practices and the use of complicated derivatives. This has led to many losing faith in the financial system. We have in recent years seen ever-increasing interest in digital and decentralized currencies, most notably, of course, Bitcoin. Now, what are your thoughts on any potential role that Bitcoin could take in the global financial system, and what are the potential risks?
In the global financial system and a currency? Zero. Nobody would take. Would you take Bitcoin as a currency? If I owed you $1,000, would you take it? Because it could collapse tomorrow afternoon.
Right.
It could skyrocket as well. I don't know any. I know very few merchants who would take Bitcoin as payment for debts. Speculators may take it, or buy it or sell it, but I don't. What are you talking about as a currency? Do you know a merchant? Do you know many merchants, if any, who would take Bitcoin as payment for debts? I don't. So I don't see it as a currency. In fact, I see it as disappearing. Money is going to be on the computer, on the internet. There's no question. Already in China, I went to buy an ice cream the other day, Perry, in Beijing. I had renminbi. Poor woman didn't know what to do. She couldn't take money.
That's crazy.
She gave me. It was great because she gave me the ice cream in the end. She felt so sorry.
She had no choice.
I had money. I had renminbi, but she didn't know what to do. I didn't have it on my phone. I have it on my phone now.
You didn't have your WeChat app, right?
I did not. It was not WeChat. Yes, WeChat. I did not have it then, but I do have it now. My point is that money is going to be on the computer. Yes. There's no question about that. Will it be Bitcoin or something like that? No, of course not. Second of all, and I've explained why it's not. Few people will use it as money because they don't know what they're getting, and then they have to go through the cumbersome exercise of changing it to money they can use.
Right.
Money is going to be on the computer, whether it's Amazon or Facebook or JP Morgan. It doesn't matter. Money is going to be on the computer. It already is on the computer in Asia, certainly in China. Governments like that because they can call up Perry and say, Perry, we noticed you've had too much coffee this month.
Sure.
Cut down on your coffee, or you've been going to the movie too much this month. They know everything you've did, so governments love it. I, of course, hate that. Hate it enormously, but it doesn't matter what I hate or like. The cryptocurrency guys, the Bitcoin guys say, listen, we're smarter than the government. And Perry, they are. They're much smarter than the government. Yeah. But the government has the guns. Doesn't matter how smart you are. If the military comes knocking on your door with AK-47s, you're going to do what they say.
So in regards to that comment you made about China having the referencing tool to really check about how much alcohol you've been drinking, how much coffee you've been consuming, like what are your, because obviously you mentioned that it's something you're not in favor of, where can you see China going on kind of in the future with that? Do you think it's something that will be globalized, or what are your thoughts?
It won't be just China. No, the Chinese are ahead of the rest of us as far as money and the internet and things like that. But no, it's going to be everybody. Don't you think the U.S. government's not going to get on it as fast as they can? No, all governments love to know what you're doing and when you're doing it and how you're doing it. They got a whole troop of people who just get so excited knowing what you're doing.
I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't either. I hate it. But that's unfortunately, whether we like it or not, that's what's happening.
The truth is the truth.
It's going that way.
Bloody right. To switch up on that, actually, so you've been a long supporter of the agricultural sector, as well as being a strong supporter of the future potential of Asia. What advantages do you think that Asian markets have over those in Western countries? And are there any recent developments that show great potential going forward?
Well, what potential of the Asian markets are much bigger. I mean, there are over 3 billion with a B people living in Asia.
Sure.
Asian countries don't have much debt. America is the largest debtor nation in the history of the world. Nearly all the European countries are broke or pretending not to be broke, but they're all broke. Even Germany even German cities now. Germany has has cities that are in serious trouble now. But Asia doesn't have debt. They have huge assets. The rest of the world has gigantic debt, which is going higher every day. In Asia, they have high savings rate. They still save and invest for the future. The West is full of debt. There are many differences. I can go on and on. The markets are bigger here. The history has put the markets in the West. I mean, Chicago invented soybean contracts, but China uses more soybeans than anybody in the world. China now has a soybean contract, which is bigger than Chicago's, but it's not open to the West yet. It's just for Chinese.
Wow.
So all of this is going to change, and the markets will move to Asia because this is where the consumption is and where much of the production is.
Sure. So in regards to China, you've spent a lot of time in Asia now. Are you fluent in Mandarin yet?
But yeah, I speak not a word, or maybe 3 words. My children are astonishing Mandarin speakers. My children say, "Daddy, please don't speak Mandarin. You embarrass us." So no.
You leave it to the younger generation.
I speak nothing but their stars. The Chinese invite them to Beijing to come be on TV because they're so stunned by that.
They're so up that point.
The Chinese TV people say you speak better Mandarin than some of our presenters. So they speak, but I don't.
So like obviously, as you're saying, you've got a larger population, a bigger mindset within the kind of Asian communities. Now, with Southeast Asia becoming, Thailand itself obviously becoming a superpower in the sense of pushing innovation and agriculture together. What are your kind of mindset on Southeast Asia as a power itself?
Well, Southeast Asia, as is commonly defined, has 600 million people. That's not a bad sized market. They mainly have high savings. They mainly have low debt, and they mainly have populations whose lifestyle and income is increasing. So no, it's a wonderful, wonderful place to invest. I'm sure there are going to be some problems. We see the problems in Malaysia now, where somebody apparently was not honest. But you're going to have that everywhere. Everywhere, doesn't matter where. You're going to have that sort of thing. But no, there's certainly lots of opportunities in Southeast Asia. They have natural resources. They have agriculture. They have population. They have high savings, low debt.
Right. So because obviously with one area of focus specifically in Thailand is obviously cannabis at the moment, which has become being legalized. CBD is at a point where they're happy for them to sell it. I recently went to a conference 2 days ago and they were talking about obviously products that people can now buy and put into the market. So would you say that cannabis would be something which can definitely push the Southeast Asian market to maybe even a point of being, let's say, Thailand being a first world country in 15 to 20 years?
Well, I don't know if cannabis alone can do it, but certainly it's happening. You see what's happened in Taiwan,
sure.
Korea, South Korea, Singapore. I mean, these were all Hong Kong. These were all laughing stocks 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So, and now they're among the most successful and most prosperous countries in the world. Of course, it can happen in Thailand, and it will. Whether it's just because of cannabis, I don't know. No. Cannabis is certainly becoming legal in more and more countries around the world. The UN has encouraged the legalization of cannabis. So yeah, and cannabis seems to be a wonderful thing to many people. Now, I live in Singapore. If you can spell cannabis, in Singapore they put you in jail.
Yes.
So don't think it happens everywhere. It hasn't, but it is moving in that direction.
So do you see cannabis as a potential investment opportunity?
Yes, of course. If anybody who doesn't should read or should watch Big Eye.
Yeah.
or read the newspapers. I mean, it's happening. Whether I like it or not, it's inconsequential. It's happening.
It's happening either way. Yeah, bloody right. So just to move on to another topic as well, Trump's trade war with China is a hot topic. And what outcomes do you foresee as a result of Trump's trade war with China? Do you believe that one country will come out on top, or will it be a lose-lose situation for both countries?
Nobody's ever won a trade war ever in history. Mr. Trump either doesn't know history or he's smart. I know he thinks he's smarter than history. He tells us all the time that he's smarter than history and smarter than everybody else, and he does. He thinks trade wars are good. he thinks he can win trade wars, but history would indicate they have never been any good for anybody, and nobody's ever won. And then people who are not involved suffer, because everybody suffers when there's a trade war. Soon, Washington and Beijing will announce some good news. It will sound like good news, might even be good news. But then when things start getting bad in the U.S. again, next year, this year, whenever, Mr. Trump is going to come back and blame it on the foreigners. He's certainly not his fault, certainly not Trump's fault that American economy is having trouble. And he will come back with a new trade war. He'll blame the Koreans, the Japanese, the Germans, the Mexicans. He's going to blame everybody. So the trade war will come back hard, and we will all, I told you, the next bear market is going to be the worst in my lifetime. I said it would be because of debt, but there's going to be compounded by other things as well, such as trade wars. Maybe even real wars.
Right. So this is something that I've always had a thought on. Obviously, in regards to the tariffs which Trump put through recently, similar to on Amazon, increasing it to 25%. The problem is, obviously, the cost of getting products in China is still negligible compared to getting it anywhere else. How are these these tariffs going to ever give any other country the ability to challenge China for commodities?
If you can produce goods cheaper than other people, high quality, you'll challenge. Doesn't matter who you are. The Brits used to control the world, but along came these wacky Americans in New England, did it better, cheaper, better, faster, and put the Brits out of business. 200 years ago, the Midlands of England were the most astonishing part of the world had ever seen, in fact. Had more machines than something like 90% of the world. But yet, the Midlands are not the Midlands anymore. Because the Americans came along, the Japanese came along, the Koreans, many people, somebody always comes along.
It's been getting rapidly faster and faster, huh?
Well, I don't know if it's getting faster and faster, but it's continuing to happen, yes.
There's a lot of media coverage now, though, in that sense.
There's much more media coverage now because of the internet. We get our information faster. But just because people get information faster, it doesn't matter. You still got to have good judgment. 100 people can go in a room and all hit exactly the same thing at exactly the same moment, but only 8 or 9 of them will get it right.
Sure.
It's still judgment.
Right. So you have recently been quoted as saying that to sell Chinese stocks now would be a lifelong regret. Which sectors in China do you see as having most potential, and are there any sectors that you would avoid?
I don't know if I put it quite like that, but that's pretty good. I like that. I probably said something like, if you'd sold your American shares in 1919, you would have looked good for a while, but you would have regretted it 80 or 90 years later, and that's essentially what I was saying about China. Sure. Well, there are many sectors. Pollution cleanup. China's filthy. China's a nightmare, but they know it, and they're spending a lot of money to clean it up. One Belt, One Road. You must have read about One Belt, One Road. Tourism. The Chinese are now opening to tourism. They've never, for decades, it's very difficult for Chinese to travel. Now it's easy to get a passport, easy to take money out of the country to travel. There are many agriculture. Beijing will do just about anything you want if you're in the countryside, especially if you're a foreigner. Beijing says, look, in the past 40 years, the people in the cities, look out the window. People in the cities have done spectacularly well, but in the countryside they haven't. Now they're doing everything they can to help the countryside. Go to China, go to the countryside, buy yourself a tractor, you'll get rich. Even if you don't know anything, because the government's going to help you.
Okay, that's a good investment. Just putting it out there, guys. Wonderful. So China has had a long history of using traditional herbal medicines to teach health problems, often very successfully. Improved processing technologies, such as those developed by Thai Freeze-Dry, TFD International, have brought great improvements to efficacy and quality of freeze-dried herbs. Can you foresee the herbal medication industry being able to challenge the way we think about big pharma and the treatments that are available?
Absolutely. I mean, Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, call it what you will, has been around for centuries. Wouldn't have lasted for centuries unless something was right. somewhere along. You can fool a lot of people, but you can't fool the whole world for hundreds of years. So something is right there. Now, I don't know which is right, but I do know that they're making more developments. There's more testing going on. There are more products or procedures coming out that we all know more about. So yeah, no, if you're a big farmer, you better be worried. You better be getting involved with the Chinese, because some of these, quote, wacky Chinese traditional medicine are going to knock the socks off of a lot of people.
Sure.
I don't know who and when or why, but I know it's going to happen. It could not have lasted without there being some reality somewhere.
So do you personally, do you use any kind of natural medicines or anything for your own well-being?
I try to use as little medicine as possible. I have been to the acupuncturist,
Nice.
but I don't like to go to doctors, Chinese or Western. So I try to. I don't say, look, go down and buy this herb. No, I don't know.
Right. No worries at all. It's good just to keep as clean as possible. So more than anything, you're just keeping your nutrition up then, right?
We hope. We'll see. You can ask me in 30 years.
Okay, I will. We'll do the interview in 30 years from this point. Okay. Brilliant. Look, that's pretty much all the stuff that we really wanted to speak to you about, Jim, just to get an understanding of your view on a few things, and you've been unbelievably positive with your responses.
Well, thank you. It's been fun. So let's do it again sometime. Okay?
Thank you so much. Rock on, Jim.
Good.
Have a lovely day, mate.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.